Talking Music with Big Andy. This week's podcast, Alice Hubble is talking music with me, Big Andy. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Big Andy and I have with me this week Alice Hubble. Hello, Alice.
Oh, hi, Andy. Thanks for inviting me onto the show.
It's great to have you. Now, some people may know you as one half of Arthur and Martha.
Yes. So Arthur and Martha was a band from quite a few years ago now. I think our album came out in 2009, but we did play a gig a couple of years ago now. I think it was 2019. It seems like such a long time, sort of between now and like before the pandemic, that my years get completely messed up.
These last 2 years seem to have taken a long time to get past. Okay, so this is a solo project. This is just you on your own with
yes.
As you your statement. I think it says it's the product of one lady locked in at home with an enormous collection of synthesizers.
Yes, that's it. The Alice Hubble project is pretty much the majority of the synthesizers are recorded at home and then we'll go to a studio. So I do have, I think the enormous collection has come from the record label, but I think for me it seems like a very reasonable collection of synthesizers, but probably to the average person it's a little bit excessive. So but they're all upstairs in the studio. So.
And at the moment you're releasing stuff on Happy Robots record label.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Happy Robots was the label that me and Adam set up when we were doing Arthur and Martha, and then when he sort of rebooted the label when he was he has a solo project called Rodney Cromwell as well, and then he's put out Alice Hubble, but then there's other bands like Tiny Magnetic Pets, Roman Angelos, who's based in Brooklyn, and Mood Tag, that are based in Cologne, and Morgan from Stereolab, or who used to be in Stereolab, has put out a 7-inch on the label as well. So it's a really kind of eclectic mix of bands, but all with synthesizers in common.
Okay. So, I mean, how did you get into music, and especially the whole synthesizer thing?
I think I had piano lessons when I was a kid, so I was like the kind of nerdy music kid playing piano and clarinet. I had sort of a couple of older friends who were into kind of more electronic music and synthesizers, and I think for me, I got kind of frustrated with playing the piano because you're told that you have to play something in a certain way, and I kind of wanted to be more creative. And I mean, the thing like synthesizers, you can make them like they're inanimate objects, but you can make them sound so sort of soulful and soulful and full of emotion. So it just sort of that sound just sort of grabbed me.
What sort of music influenced you when you were first starting out making your own music?
I think sort of initially when I was sort of a late teenager, the sort of there was bands like kind of like Gorky Zygotic Monkey, the Delgados, that kind of indie stuff. And I think part of it was that it was something different, but also it was kind of something that felt like sort of achievable, that like these people weren't that much older than me. They were like, and I think that kind of DIY kind of indie bands of the late 90s sort of really made me think, oh, this is something that I could actually do myself. But then also around that time, like Kraftwerk have always been a big influence, and New Order and OMD as well, sort of the sort of synth big hitters that I sort of like sort of fell in love with around then as well.
Okay. Now you put your first solo album out in 2019 September. Now interesting names for your albums. Is it Polar Lichter?
Yes, the Polar Lichter. That's it's interesting. So I called the album Polar Lichter, and then I met my partner who is German, and so that sort of influenced things going forward, but it was kind of a bit of a coincidence. The name Polar Lichter came from the artwork, which I sort of found in a Berlin flea market, and it's of from the German equivalent of the Encyclopedia Britannica. There's pictures of the Northern Lights, and I just thought it looked really, really beautiful. And I think for me, I really like the sounds of the words as well. Like, it sort of feels otherworldly. And then Hextens Flats was named after the mountain, but translates literally there. So there is a mountain in the Harz Mountains of Germany called Hextens Flats, and that translates to be the witch's dance floor. And historically, it was a Saxon cult site, and sort of lots of kind of things are supposed to have happened on that site. And so I kind of just liked the sort of mystical kind of nature of that, and kind of all the I got really into reading. I even attempted to read Goethe's Faust, but I didn't get very far with it.
Yes. The first album, you put a single out from that called Goddess, which I really like that track. I think it's a really good track. It's interesting. The sound on that album, it's I don't know. I kind of grew up with the first kind of big wave of computer games.
Yeah.
And there's a lot about the sound on that album that reminds me of the kind of soundtrack to some of the computer games I used to play.
Yeah, because there's Hunt for the Blood Red Moon has a mellotron sound on it, which is like male vocals. And someone sent me a computer game music from the 80s, and they were like, that song sounds exactly like this. And I was like, oh yeah. And it wasn't, I mean, I think that first album, like, it was kind of, I didn't really set out with any sort of set plan of what things were going to sound like. And in a way, it was kind of me sort of trying to figure out what the Alice Hubble sound was with that record. So there's a lot of mellotron on it, and a lot of my Korg as well.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It was great to hear it, because it kind of took me back to when I was a teenager. It's kind of like sort of, wow, I remember sitting in front of the computer playing these games, and it's this sort of this, you know, at that time it wasn't huge in the charts, and it wasn't heard much anywhere else. So it was the only place you heard that kind of electronic sound was on there. Which, you mentioned Hunt for the Blood Red Moon. I really like that. I like the sound of that. I like the feel of that song.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a modal kind of sort of, that was, I think I've never played that one live. I don't, but maybe I should try and get that one together now.
That's good. Let's have a look at a clip from a video.
The sensations, the rush of blood you have at her presence confirms your feelings. She's the one you're worshipping. Next to her, you're merely nothing.
And the other thing I like, the other one I like of that is that I think it's the track after it, the Golden Age.
Yes, yeah.
I really like that. Was really kind of, I suppose Goddess and those two were ones that kind of stood out for me from the rest of the album. Just tracks that kind of grabbed me in some way and maybe thought, oh, I like that. I like the sound of that. Sorry. So did you get a chance to go and play live with that stuff? First album?
Yeah, with the first album, we were, so that came out September 2019, and then did a tour around about a month after that, and then also went to Germany and did some shows there as well. So did get to tour it, but then had lots of things that were meant to be happening in 2020, and of course they all got cancelled, but sort of slowly coming back to things. So like I played a show in May just as things were kind of opening up again, which was really really lovely thing to sort of be part of. And then have just done a couple of shows and got a few more coming up this month now to kind of promote the second album.
Okay. So yeah, the second album has just come out, isn't it? It's only well, that's Hextens Flats.
Yes.
Is that right? and that's, I mean, you've got that up on Bandcamp and on Bot Shop.
It should be on. You can buy the album direct from the label from Bandcamp and the Happy Robots website, but also it's on all streaming platforms, and good record shops should have it as well. So
and you've got all the tracks are on YouTube.
Yes,
well, so you can listen to them on there if they want to, that as well. But I really like that album as well. It's got a slightly different sound to the first one. It's got the sound seems to have a bit more depth to it.
Definitely. I mean, I think with this album I had I spent the first one trying to work out what I was doing, and then the second one it's like, okay, now what I did sort of at the start of kind of record it, think, what did I think people responded to on the first album? What did I like about it? And then A lot of it some of the tracks were recorded pre-pandemic, but a lot of a big chunk of the album was recorded during the first lockdown.
Right.
I was put on furlough with my day job, and kind of took that opportunity to sort of really try and throw myself into the music making. And it's funny that I made a conscious decision to not kind of really comment on the pandemic or have any like connection with it, but I think a lot of the tracks like West Reservoir just sounds it's like quite a sinister opening to the album, and there's a lot of kind of, I can feel that there was a lot of anger and frustration, and kind of the songs are a lot heavier in some ways to the first album as well. And I think that's sort of just a testament to like the time that it was recorded. And
so that natural kind of reaction to the things that are going on around you, that's obviously going to come out in the music you make. And with that one, there was one track that kind of, I mean, I like the whole album, but there was one track immediately when I first just listened through it, that immediately kind of jumped out at me, and that's Numb. I really like that, and I can't say exactly why I like that more than any of the others, but just kind of, for some reason it just jumped out at me, and I really like that. It's a great piece of music, and it really works well.
For me, I like how, I mean, that track sort of changed quite a little bit in the recording process, because that was one of the first one of the group of songs that were recorded initially in 2019, and with Sam and Rachel in their studio with the drummer Matt Kelly, who he plays with Maps, and he has this band called Mad 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 that are a nuts party band, and they're really good fun. Mad Mad Mad. And so we had them recorded, and then when I went into the studio last October with Michael Collins, who I recorded the album with, we quite a few bits sort of really got sort of changed with those initial songs, but I think it was partly just a year on kind of coming back to a track with fresh ears. But I really like how, I'm particularly fond of the ending of that track, as sort of the big instrumental sort of ending with that, with the synths and the
it builds up really well to a really nice ending. It's really good. And I also like the one of the tracks that you put out as a single, the single Power Play. That's it. I really like that as well. That's a really good track.
Thank you.
Where do you get your inspirations from? Where do you what is it, just like personal experience? Is it I don't know. I mean, I've talked to people who get things from personal experience, things from what's going on in the world, but also things from, like, books that they've read on mythology or things like that. Where do your influences, your things for your songwriting come from?
I mean, some of it is very sort of personal. So say on the album My Dear Friend is about discovering sort of love letters written by my mother to my father when they first met. And so both my parents died when I was quite young, so actually that was quite a discovery, and kind of just I think for me, being able to sort of talk about those things in songwriting is sort of partly therapy, but also I think with other songs, say like with goddess or power play. A lot of that is quite kind of driven by me wanting to say or make a comment about something that I feel sort of passionate about. And I mean, for me, I feel like I want the songs to say something, and I want there to be a strong message of feminism and inclusivity, and kind of, and also making a comment on things that are happening in the world. And I think for me, I definitely find that easier to do through songwriting rather than like writing something, or kind of like, I don't really get involved in the social media debates and all that stuff, but I want to be my voice to be part of the conversation. So
I can see
it's a real mixture of things.
It does come across. I mean, I was going to ask you. I mean, I interviewed a number of bands and people on here who are female led, and there seems to be there is still a certain amount of misogyny within the music world.
Yeah.
And have you had any direct sort of contact with that? Is there anything, if you had things that have kind of, you feel have held you back at all? I
mean, I feel like every woman has experienced sort of some kind of misogyny in the music industry, and I think the thing that I think is really important is to represent the idea of what you want one of the great things I find about being a self-managed musician is that I can choose who I work with. I can so I make a point of working with videographers or other artists or and PRs and everything, that I feel kind of I have a shared kind of vision of what I want the industry to be like, or working with promoters that I want to work with. And for me, actually, that is just really important. This is more than just a hobby for me, but it's also really it's sort of how I spend my spare time. So I kind of want to enjoy the process, and actually I like now that people are really questioning what the industry is about, and kind of actually it doesn't have to be this kind of like what it has been in the past. It can be this new it can be this new inclusive world. You just have to sort of affect the change to make it happen. But I also know that I'm a little bit older and feel a little bit more confident in kind of and sort of from being around kind of know what my place is in the world, that I can sort of make those decisions and work with autonomy. Like, I don't know, the industry is so sort of strange at the moment with how everything is, how with the pandemic everything has sort of gone digital, but it's all, and Spotify streaming has just become like kind of how we're meant to, like the ruling factor in sort of our motivations. It's sort of my main thing is just trying to enjoy the process and work with who I want to work with.
It's perfectly reasonable. It's something I don't understand when I see people who have been in the music industry for a long time, who are producers and promoters and that sort of thing, who are saying about how they've had to change the way they work because of the new culture of having to, consider people's feelings so much. And you kind of go, well, what were you doing in the first place then? Were you not considering people's feelings? Were you just, you know, what sort of way did you work? And obviously that wasn't the right way to be working. You know?
No.
So why did you do it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that whole thing of like, oh, we're gonna like celebrate like Led Zeppelin for being a bunch of creeps for so long, and that sort of being celebrated as like what it is to be a rock star and everything. It's just like like no, that it's, and also a lot of the time that kind of like that rock and roll myth is actually kind of a myth. Like it's sort of that people feel like bands have to be like that, or because that's what rock and roll is.
No, I agree. I don't understand. I kind of feel sorry for people who say that they have lost something from having to consider people's feelings and consider what they're saying and doing around people, because I kind of think, well, you must have been doing something strange in the first place. There must be something wrong with you that you weren't considering people's feelings in the first place. I don't know. It's a weird thing about the entertainment industry, I think, of all types. That it's just that bizarre sort of kind of setup it is. Time for another video clip. So you're going to be doing some more live gigs with promoting the new album?
Yes, yeah. So we're doing Leeds this Friday on the 15th, and then the 23rd of October is Brighton, supporting Letitia Sadia from Stereolab. So that will be a good one. 31st of October, Halloween in Cardiff at the Moon, and the 7th of November in Oxford. And then sort of looking to do some more shows in the new year, and hopefully going back to Germany as well. So
that's cool.
It's kind of, I think it's been so nice coming out and doing these shows, because a lot of the time the people who are there are like, oh, this is my first gig. And like the London gig on Thursday was my first gig to be at as well. So it's sort of nice to kind of come back into venues with everyone.
It is a strange thing. It's the fact that over the last 2 years, a lot of people have become of the age where they can now go to the venues and see the bands live, whereas 2-3 years ago, they weren't actually old enough to do that, but they were getting into the music.
Yeah.
So now they're being able to go out and see these bands live for the first time, and it's sort of this like experience that, rather than just going to see a band, it's a real full-on experience.
Yeah.
One more video clip.
Afterglow, bathed in light, she's standing tall, burning bright. The vision distorts the memories, it's still there. The scars that they leave, they don't easily fade away. Power play, living as if there's nothing that happened, no recourse, consequence to their actions. Others cause, others rot. Broken mirrors, black candles and ashes. Bring your rage and all of the axes you will grind. Will they find nemesis? She'll give to them what's due.
So where from here? Where do you want to take this? Do you want to sort of have you got a long-term plan, or is it just kind of like taking each year as it comes?
I mean, I think with it sort of everything is building kind of slowly and but consistently, and then kind of there are definitely I'm seeing the same sort of faces of people coming back to the shows, which is really nice. I mean, I think for me it would be, I want to play more festivals next year, so hopefully the festivals that I was meant to play in 2020 I can play next year, and kind of and go back to Germany and tour in the UK a bit more, and sort of start thinking about recording the next record. I also, during lockdown last year, did a sort of collaborative, more experimental record with this Bradford-based musician called Andy Abbott. So that's we're looking at doing some more recording as well. So I'm kind of enjoying trying, like, sort of pushing my music making in different ways as well. So
yeah. Cool. It's I really like your stuff. I like both the albums.
Yeah.
I really do. And
thank you.
You got some interesting remixes as well, some of the tracks on the singles as well, which is quite good.
Yes, yeah. The We Are Still Alone remix by Pie Corner Audio is pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
If he recorded it, he sent it to me during lockdown 1, and I was like, it sort of, to me, sounds like the soundtrack of lockdown. Is really, really intense, and it is. You never know what you're going to get when you send sort of tracks off to people to remix.
Yeah.
So it's always great to hear how people interpret the music.
Yeah. No, some of the remixes are really, really good. So, well, I hope that you hope you do well with getting out there and playing, and
Thank you.
And getting the festivals, especially.
Fingers crossed there's no more lockdowns and
yeah, let's hope not. I don't think I could do that.
No.
And I hope you do well with this album and with future albums. And that sort of thing.
Thank you. Thanks.
And I look forward to seeing you on the stage at headlining Glastonbury or something like that at some point.
Oh yeah, that's definitely like on the cards for sure.
Maybe a year or two down the line, but yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being on the show. It's been great talking to you, it really has.
Thanks for having me.
So look out for Alice Hubble's music. I'll put links up to the YouTube channel and to Bandcamp and to the Happy Robots label site, and check out the music and look out for her coming to a place near you to play live. So thank you very much for tuning into the podcast, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye. Talking Music with Big Andy.